It could be multifactorial. It could have many factors. The one thing we know is that most of our African governments are autocratic. They are now open to criticism generally, even in politics, let alone when it comes to science, medicine, and other things. So the first basis is that we have a government that has demonstrated that it's not open to be criticized. And we have evidence that can be availed in that respect. The government has closed down radio stations. It has held people responsible for speaking their minds. And so it has brought its heavy hand to bear on political opponents in various ways. Uh, we saw the removal of a sitting chief justice on which we think were politically motivated. We saw how some other critical representatives in the legislature have been treated. Say, for example, Yeke Koluba, for example, because of his critical view on how things should go and how the legislature should function in the interest of the people. We have seen how the electoral system has been manipulated. So if you put all of these together, and you have some of us who have created the basis for the democracy that we have today, and are also saying that let us maintain this democracy by respecting each other's views, by not suppressing other people's opinion and their views, they find it as critical. So irrespective of that, whether you are a scientist, you are an economist, you are an engineer, if you bring forth any good idea, the first thing they look at is, I think they look at it from a political standpoint and not from a professional standpoint. So the problem really is on the side of the government to really answer, because irrespective of our critical view, many others observers have credited my intervention into the Liberian pandemic response as being one of the single most key factors that had the people understanding what this virus was. Thanks to all of the radio stations that called me to talk on the virus early in the morning when the virus broke out, and they transmitted it all around the country, different radio stations, to the extent that Bong Radio had to call me and I had to speak typical Liberian English so that our old people could understand. I mean, I had to struggle to really break it down that this disease that comes to a bow when you now wear the cloth on your nose, when you now stay far away from somebody, when you're coughing, you now put your elbow there, and the small spit come from your mouth, it will go to somebody and that person will catch it. So this virus is real. It's not a joke, because people were thinking the virus was a joke.
But then you know the Liberian colloquial more than Steve and Telco, because they speak series. Wouldn't make us with the colloquial.
That's good. So nothing that I did was against what the government wants. Everything I did was professional. I went in the country for the vaccine situation. Pretty much everybody was afraid of the vaccine until I went community to community on radio, had community events, and people now started having the confidence to go and take the vaccine. In fact, a whole radio station, OK FM, if you saw during that time, the entire staff of OK FM said, we now believe that this vaccine is safe, is effective from what Dr. Nyan is saying. And our whole staff will take it on radio. And we asked, radio and television, and we asked everybody to take it just as we are doing. So OK FM and many other stations did the same thing. Then few of the authorities also started going to take the vaccine. So it started inducing confidence. When I left, the same thing continued. So politics is there, but the reality of medicine and disease and science, they are also there. When I went there, I didn't carry anything about an NDC vaccine, or at the time we had CPP, right? CPP vaccine, or even the CDC, National Center for Disease Control now. Coalition for Democratic Change vaccine. We went there to carry scientific, medically studied and approved vaccine. That was it. So that question really belongs to the government to answer. And every time they come on, when they are asked these questions, they dodge around it. What is the problem of producing the testing kits for us so that we don't have shortage of testing kits in the country? And that's what we are doing for other countries. So what is the problem? That question the government needs to answer. What is the question of using the 6,000, the 2,000 healthcare professionals that we trained during the Ebola time? You want to put them aside, but you want to create another so-called 6,000 contact tracers by the Monrovia City Corporation. Where does the Monrovia City Corporation come into pandemic response or epidemiology? When we have the city infested with garbage that they need to concentrate on cleaning because the garbage itself is a source of disease. And so when I say, no, this is not your area, as we say in Liberia, they're not your area. Deal with the city ordinances, deal with the cleaning, allow the National Public Health Institute, which was created when I testified at the US Congress during the Ebola crisis. We put in for that. We said we want the African CDC to be created. That was my testimony at the US Congress in 2014, September. We want the National Public Health Institute to be created so that when we have infection the next time, we will not run to you. At least we'll be able to control it ourselves. And when we are overpowered, then we can call for you. What happened? Didn't we have, didn't Ebola beat us? But look at when Corona came. Look at how effective, to some extent, we were able to control it because we had the structures already existing. So leave these 6,000 quote-unquote people you want to train. We already have 2,000 trained people for this thing. Use them. That was another crime I created, and they went against me. So when you look at that, you see that another problem, the government is creating its own problem. And who suffers? The majority of the people suffer. Because when they get sick, they are able to fly out immediately to go for treatment. The ordinary person cannot do that.
Yeah. Thank you. Just before Tel comes in with our question, I don't know which side of you to really like, because I like both sides of you. You confusing us. I don't know if we have a correlation here between you and I. And many people will see professionals as, don't talk politics. Don't get into the politics. Oh, y'all let politics business. Just stay with the science, or stay with psychology, or stay with medicine. But these are the things that will facilitate our work.
Right.
So I'm in 100% agreement with you, and I would hope the government would listen and understand that this is to help. It's not necessarily to go after them or criticize them or whatever. But it's back to you. So I love both sides of you, Dr. Young.
Well, thank you. And I will say here that our people should begin being comfortable with this, because this will not be the first, this will not be the last. There are many professionals who will be involved in the political day-to-day or advocacy in our country. If you look in the Western countries, the United States, for example, most of the people you find in the Senate and the legislature, they are all professional people.
Exactly.
You have doctors in there. Exactly. Look at Dr. Rand Paul, the senator from, I just forgotten his state, but he's on the health committee. He's the one that questions with most of those medical questions. Mm-hmm. Look at Senator Elizabeth Warren. Mm-hmm. She's an economist. She's a financial expert. And you see many of them. Barack Obama, when he was in the Senate, he's a lawyer.
Right.
So we have to educate our people. This advocacy has to continue. That the way our country is operating, it is going down because you don't have this very expertise representing you in the legislature to really look at the budget.
Exactly.
Because you don't have the financial people with financial expertise. I mean, real serious financial expertise to question the budget, to make sure to send it back to the president and say, no, this aspect of your budget, how do we generate this fund? Don't you think we have a huge deficit? Where will the income come from? And all of these things, you need people like that. When you come to like this pandemic, every day you see Fauci and the CDC, mean the Center for Disease Control. I always try to specify Center for Disease Control because as soon as I say CDC, our CDC, political CDC people will jump on me. So I'm talking about the Centers for Disease Control. They always have hearings on them. If any little thing happens, they call and they say, what is the trend of this pandemic now? How many testing kits do we need? How many tests do we need? And tell me to come back to your question since I talk about the testing kits. That is why the testing kits sometimes miss the detection because of the variants. They change every time. So if you had the older version, and then a new variant comes in, it may possibly miss it. So that's why it's not that it's bad or it's anything, but that is why we try to improve the testing kits every time and make them more efficient. And that's how science is. That's how society is. That's what criticism is about. Mind you, in the clinic, we criticize ourselves. We look at our protocols, the treatment protocols and everything. We say, wait a minute, we go to a meeting and say, okay, we gave this patient this the other day. Do we think it's working when we look at all the parameters? Another doctor will say, no, I would think we should use the alternative of this medication instead of this because it has this, that. And we would say, okay, now mind you, that's another doctor giving his critical view. Mm-hmm. And we accept it and implement it. So in politics, if somebody come and say, no, the way you arrested that person just for what they say is not good. What you should do is listen to what they are saying and take from what they are saying. You don't have to accept it, but you can discuss with them and cross-fertilize ideas. So if you do that, then they're saying you're being political. But all these things work hand in hand, and they should get used to scientists, doctors, engineers being political in our society. That age has come and that age has reached. If I'm one of those who's representing that and being the pioneer of that, which I'm practically not because we have had doctors and scientific people who were political in the past, T.J. Arab Faulkner, who the Science College is named after. He was a scientist. And he ran for offices many times against President Tubman. He was an advocate. Okay? So that's where we are. Blyden, Edward Wilmot Blyden. He was not merely a politician. He was in the liberal arts, some aspects of the liberal arts. Albert Port was not a politician. He was a journalist. Although people may drag journalists towards politics, but journalists are just there to report and be critical of what they are reporting and who's saying what, who's not saying what. That's all they report. So people take that to be political sometimes. No, it's what we do, it's what they report. Albert Port, one of the most fierce journalists, I can say, whose nephew is Kenneth Y. Best today that owns Daily Observer. So they should get used to that, please.
Well, you wouldn't have said it any better. They really need to get used to that because we get that all the time, and people are like, oh, if I somebody called me at work yesterday, tell me now you liking too much politics. You need to leave this politics. I say it's not about politics. We have to put our mouth in this thing. And some of these things, we know it because why not? Because if we don't talk about it, then the foolish people or the people don't know better, they make this stupid decision talking about the budget and everything else. So put your mouth in it if you feel you can talk about it. So they need to get used to the new normal. So I echo that.
Thank you for seconding me.
So you have better call you Tata Fashi.
What an honor.
Tata Nyan, let's talk about NDC. I saw that you've been writing a lot about NDC and made some appointments. Why now? And let's talk about NDC. What are they all about? What's their platform? What makes them different from CPP?
The NDC is the National Democratic Coalition of Liberia. It is a social democratic political formation and the only one we have in the country. Social democracy is the philosophy of the National Democratic Coalition. As you will note, and I stand corrected, most, if not, the political parties in the country can hardly tell you what they really stand for. They can hardly tell you their philosophy. If you look in the West, you see in the United States, you see the Democratic Party, you see the Republican Party. The Republican Party stands for conservatism. That's their philosophy. The Democratic Party of the United States, they practice the same thing we are doing, social democracy. So that's the National Democratic Coalition. It was founded in 2011. So it's to date, it's the oldest coalition in the country. During the electoral season of 2011, that's when the New Deal movement, which is the Democratic National Alternative for Democratic Movement, which is New Deal movement, and the Free Democratic Party came together and formed a coalition. The New Alternative for Democracy, which is the New Deal movement for short, was founded during the Taylor's time, as we said. And this was the political party that really gave Taylor, in our Liberian parlance, hell, and advocated against his excesses, those undemocratic tendencies. At the time, it was remaining 2-3 years to go for elections. That's when LURD came in and said they were removing Taylor because of all of what he was doing. That was not necessary, because we could have gone to elections and we could have defeated Taylor. When I say we, not necessarily the New Deal movement, but as a civilian, we would have defeated Taylor. We didn't need any more fighting in that country. So we participated in the negotiations, as I said, that brought the peace to being, for which we had a 2005 election, the 2005 elections. And then when the 2011 electoral period came into being, the NDC was then founded. One of our postulations when the New Deal movement was founded is that, as you know, there were almost 20 to 25 political parties during the 1997 elections when Taylor won. And there was many of those parties also that went into the 2005 elections. There was a call for parties to be eliminated, to be banned. Oh, we got too many parties. We just 3.5 million people. We need just few parties. And we ourselves thought so too. So the New Deal movement said, no, you cannot institute electoral laws to ban parties. The political dynamics in a country over time will suggest political formations of coalition or alliances of parties that are of like minds and like philosophies. Our postulation has come to pass. Now, mind you, we were looking at it scientifically. So you see how science comes into politics also. So after the NDC was founded, then you had many other alliances being formed. Today we have the Coalition for Democratic Change. Then you have the CPP, which just broke apart. Then you also have the Rainbow Coalition, which was founded sometime, Rainbow Alliance or something, which was founded recently. The NDC office is located on 3rd Street in Saytown, among the masses of the people. The basic founding philosophy of the NDC is social democracy. That means we are looking at the general welfare of the country and its people. We're looking at agricultural prosperity so that the country can feed itself. We're looking at good educational and standard educational basis so that the country can have a good intellectual and technical capacity. We are focusing on health and medicine so that we are able to take care of our own sick people, that they are not flying out of Liberia or dying because they cannot fly out of Liberia. We are looking at a good economic stability, an economic model that will bring into place Liberianization so that our economy is controlled or largely participated in by Liberians, so that our economy is heavily controlled by Liberians, through which we can build a Liberian middle class, for example, other than our economy being controlled by foreigners. Foreigners not in a negative sense, but by external forces. Our philosophy also is that the wealth of our country should be largely produced. The raw materials should be largely produced, should be used to produce what we need in our country. Our country has had Firestone for over 100 and some more years, getting rubber out of the country, but we have not produced simple gloves. We have not produced condoms, but other countries have doing that. We are not producing tire either. Our country have produced the best iron ore in the world since the 1960s or the late 50s, but we are yet to produce the needle that we can use to give injection. We are yet to produce anything that comes out of iron ore. So when you look at these things, you see that our country is being exploited. And by and large, the African continent is being exploited because it's not taking place only in Liberia. So that's our economic, political philosophy, and that's why we stand on. What we are saying is Liberia's interest should be first and not individual interest. That's why you don't find among us people fighting for positions or people fighting to be this or to be that. Our philosophy in terms of leadership is that every individual is a leader. But for every given time, there are responsibilities that requires that leadership capability to be utilized for that situation. So situations create leaders. So there's no need for us to fight about who becomes the head of the party, who becomes the head of this. No. When the time reaches, we look around, we look at the seniors, the experienced people and this, and say, okay, for science and medicine and all of this thing, Dr. Nyan, you've been in the international community all this long time. You've been in and out of the country. You're both in Liberia. So I think you are suited to be, and you are participating in all these political things from your childhood up to now. You are then suited to be our international vice chair. Oh, XYZ, you are of legal mind. You are this, you are that. Probably you are suited to be on the legal committee. So there's not this fight. So we had the USA chapter. This USA chapter is the diaspora branch of the National Democratic Coalition. I will say this: all political parties now have diaspora branches, right? We have ANC Global, we have ANC USA, we have CPP USA Canada, we have CDC USA, CDC Australia, we have, you name it. It started from the New Deal movement, when the New Deal movement was founded. The New Deal movement said, we have people in the diaspora, in Ghana, in the United States, because at the time our people had not started returning home. So we need to involve them in the politics of the country. It's the same bad politics of the country that led to war that kicked them out of the country. So we need to create a platform where they'll be involved in the politics. So the New Deal movement was the first, arguably the first, to create a diaspora arm. So we had the New Deal movement USA. I was the vice chairman for the New Deal movement USA at the time. When we merged and grew the National Democratic Coalition, which is the NDC today, that aspect of the NDC, the New Deal movement, was then transformed into the New Deal movement, the National Democratic Coalition's international arm. So that's how you now have the NDC USA. We had our leadership, and we've been operating. We had our leadership, but during the COVID, we had some issues, medical issues, a lot of problems. Some members of the leadership had to resign to attend to certain things. So over time, we had this consultative meeting and came back together and restructured the leadership. And that's how we elected a new corps of officers headed by Comrade Councillor James Verdier, who was one time the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission chair. He was one time standard bearer of the Student Unification Party. Now, this is a lawyer who was a student activist in the past. So you see, I am a doctor and a medical scientist who was a student activist also in the past. So you see, this comes to validate what all of us were saying here, that even in our professional careers, we still address the political situations in our country. Then we have a pharmacist, Dr. James Josiah, who studied pharmacy and pharmacology at Temple University. He's one of the co-chairmen. Then we have a public health practitioner who graduated from Johns Hopkins University, Ambulai Johnson, who is the Secretary General. So you have professionals who are involved in this thing. I'm not the only person. So the Liberian people who are listening and our people understand that this is the beginning of professionals jumping into politics to set the situation in our country straight. We can leave it in the hands of the quote-unquote traditional politicians. And so that is the NDC. We have been operating quietly. You see, we come from the social democratic progressive line during the days of the movement for justice in Africa. So we are also Pan-Africanist. We give attention to what is going on the African continent because we were instrumental during our days in the movement for justice in Africa in advocating for the liberation of South Africa, in the liberation of Namibia, in the liberation of Angola, in the liberation of Mozambique, in the liberation of, I think, Guinea-Bissau at the time, and other countries that were still under colonial rule. So we hold dearly our Pan-Africanist root. That's one of our philosophies also. So that's the new, this coalition, which is not new, it's been around. And like I said, we advocated and created the basis for multi-party democracy. It's not an arguable fact. The evidence are there, they are existing. We were arrested during the Toba time. Our leaders were arrested. During the Dose time, our leaders were arrested for the same thing, including all students, expelled from school, put on firing squad. Alaric Topa, who is the national chairman. Now, the NDC has a national body. The USA is just a branch. The structure is in Liberia. Professor Alaric Topa is the national chairman. Siafa Boli is the chairman for vice chairman for national affairs, and I am the chairman for international affairs. So we advocated for multi-party democracy. We did not create this space to monopolize it. Then there's no multi-party democracy. We're not creating a space only for progressive or for social democrats to take over the government, to remove the military government and then become the government, and then nobody else. So when all the other parties came in, we said, hooray, we have achieved one of our major goals in life of creating a multi-party democracy. So today you have UP, you have CDC that came into existence just a few years ago. Today you have PLP, you have NPP, which came out of the war efforts. You have Liberty Party, LP. You have many other parties all around. And we said to ourselves, let's give the other parties a chance and let's see what they can show the Liberian people, because we don't want to monopolize the stage. Today, we are seeing a coalition that was formed, and we will go into that probably, but has quickly collapsed just as it began forming. The NDC, which was founded 2011, still exists, still strong, and still quietly advocating and quietly educating our people on their voting rights, women's rights, environmental issues, political issues, and many other things. And if we were to begin to do these things very openly, you will see that we will come in direct confrontation with the government. But we adapted these tactics from our previous experience when we fought against the military regime. When the military government banned all political activities, we went underground and we advocated against the military government. We organized against the military government and defeated the military government. So with what we are seeing today, this government that is in place that is now allowing people to speak their mind, that is not making health as a priority, that is not making education as a priority, but is into employing incompetent people, into stealing the money. Let me put it the raw Liberian way, stealing the Liberian people's money, building big, big houses that they never had 2 years ago, taking our money into their private bank accounts. We think that this is the time to organize appropriately in order to go against this government based on the national interest, and not just removing the government. But what do we have to offer as an opposition? That's what we are presently here organizing. We are now calling for a newer coalition to be formed that will put the Liberian people's interest first, meaning present a platform that we have already of education, science, technology, medicine, agriculture, the economy, health, and national security. National security, which incorporates safety for the people in the country. I mean, you see the high crimes rate. What happened recently at this church event? Some intruders created havoc. 30 persons or more died because there was a lack of proper security. And there was a violation, in fact, of the present COVID code, which was put in place that only 50 people should gather. But as you know, the government has been gathering its people, more than 50 people, and nobody pays attention to that. So there's violations upon violations upon violations. And we think this is the time to address those issues. So that is the NDC. That is what we stand for, and that's what we are organizing on.
Thank you. Is that me? Still going? So I wanted to leave the politics to these guys that the area, but I have one question. Say on CPP. Well, CPP kind of related because you mentioned something. Talk about CPP was not founded on a solid foundation. I think we all know that. But you said all parties in the former CPP should ultimately go their separate ways and reevaluate for future realignment. So I would say, I mean, you've been around since 2011. Why did you join them? Why did you help them to build a solid foundation? What happened?
Well, the Liberian Constitution allows any group of people to come together and form themselves into whatever union. They are not forced to invite other people if they don't want to. They knew that the National Democratic Coalition was existing when they were being formed and forming themselves into an alliance. As we said, our interest was to reduce the number of political parties, not by the Elections Commission just banning parties, but the dynamics of the electoral system, as I said, will give rise to like-minded people coming together. So the Liberty Party, the UP, which was the previous government in power, party in power, and the Alternative National Congress and the All Liberian Party came together and formed what they call the CPP. And we were a coalition already. Why they never invited us in? That's a question for them to answer. But we associated with them individually. And I will tell you this, which is not a secret, that some of the leaders of the CPP visited the NDC headquarters. We invited them to talk to them. Although we were not invited, but we invited them to talk to them. And we laid this out clearly. And I can tell you, it is indisputable that we invited the Alternative National Congress, and we invited the ALP, and lay out a good basis upon which a coalition could hold. But that the path they were taking will lead to a collapse. This was predicted by us. And we resounded that over and over. If you see all of our writings, we resounded that over and over. We didn't hide it. And so that's where I can answer your question, that we were not invited, but we invited to consult with them and tell them what road to pursue. The second portion of your question is that I can answer it shortly in that they probably thought they had like minds and they came together. Just as the National Democratic Coalition, the New Deal movement, and the Free Democratic Party figured out that we had like minds in what? Social democracy, and we came together. And we have stood all this time. And when we talk to them, what is the philosophical basis upon which you are organizing? What's going to hold you together? There must be something to glue you together. Not one of them could answer that. That was one cardinal mistake that led to their failure. There was nothing to glue them together. And there was only infight based on personality. And mind you, it's not all of them that were promoting personality, but there were certain personality clashes that led to the fall of the CPP. And the Liberian people saw it. It was played out in the press. It's evident. And that's why you see today the NDC is still together, and the CPP, which was founded just 3 years ago, has collapsed, whereby the NDC is still in existence. And now, with the confusion, there is a need to bring maturity to our politics. There was too much antagonism. There was too much back and forth clashes between members of these collaborating political party people. And we think there's a need to bring everybody to their attention, to now present a platform upon which all of us can come together. It can be all the parties that are in this, that were in the former CPP coming together, or if we hold ourselves to a fundamental principle for the country, that will hold us together, because that's what has held the NDC together all these years. And then we can go for presenting this platform to the Liberian people. Forget about we are. Once you present a good platform to the Liberian people and concentrate on that and sell it to them, selling not me, you go into say, right, but in the political sense, they will know exactly. The issues on the ground are multiple. Instead of addressing them, people are fighting for who becomes head of the ticket or who becomes second, And they completely ignore what was existing as a cardinal problem, political problem in the country that is affecting the welfare of the people. So this time around, we are saying that we have this platform and we have proposed it already. Let's look at healthcare, let's look at education, this social democracy, which is an African kind of thing, this communal life. Everybody look after the other person's well-being in terms of farming, in terms of health, in terms of education. The society put together and educated the young people, educated the young ladies. The society put together and made farm, or they went to each other farms in order for everybody in the society to be able to live, to survive. It's the same thing. The Europeans just copied these things from us and gave it fancy names. So that's where we are. We have this platform where all this confusion is over, because many of them are in court now. There's these court processes going on. We are calling everybody to attention. And this is with a humble heart, that the interest of our country is what matters. And I told you, initially, Liberia first is that motto of the New Deal movement. We came out with that motto, Liberia first. You look on our logo, you check the Liberian Elections Commission, you will see it there. That's our interest, Liberia first, because we saw that people were just killing each other for nothing, not putting the country first. So once we can do these things, we will be able to form a newer coalition that will look at the interests of the country. Then when we are in a room, remember I said the NDC, we look at who's capable, whose qualification is best suited, who is well liked in a particular electoral period. I mean, you and I could be of the same qualification, but the electoral community could like you better than me or like me better than the other person. It doesn't mean that you are bad. So when we look in the room and do our pooling and other things, scientific pooling, which we have done in the NDC, we have done some very quiet scientific pooling, and we know everything about every political party in our country, including the government itself. So we've done the scientific pooling, and we know where things stand. So then we can choose the most likable and electable person and pair that person with another good person as number two that will counter anything that the CDC government, because the CDC is in power now, they will be coming with a lot of propaganda. And mind you, I'm not giving them our tactics or so. This is just a teaser, you know. Then we form the ticket, and the ticket can be pushed forth. With that, we will have no issue. Then the NDC did that over and over. We have no issues with those things. So that's where we are, and that's what the NDC is about. You see now, even the CDC, which is comprised of four, the Coalition for Democratic Change that is in power, which is comprised of 4 political parties: the NPP, Prince Johnson's party, Ellis Tyler's party, and the Center, the CDC itself. They are in shambles. We all have been seeing it. The Vice President's party, which is NPP, say they are getting out of that coalition because they have been marginalized. Tyler also said he was getting out, if I'm correct. And you see this problem. So both in the ruling party coalition and the opposition CPP that was formed, which has collapsed, there were problems on both sides. We come in the middle and provide an alternative that will bring the opposition together and lead a charge for a possible democratic atmosphere that will restore our country's credibility, our country's governance system to that which will be respected by the international community and our neighbors and our people themselves.
Thank you, Dr. Nyan. We are basically kind of winding down so forth because we are almost gone an hour and 42 minutes. So I'd encourage you maybe to please summarize your answer as to so that we can push in more questions before we let you go for the day. But
and all people want to call too.
I want to digress just a little bit. I want to digress just a little bit on or divert from just the politics to something that's very interesting. You talked about the COVID vaccine. You've been pushing the COVID vaccine and the importance of, trying to mitigate or trying to prevent, like you said. On the other hand, in order to go to any profession, the prerequisites, one of the major things that we learn in school is English and writing, or reading and writing. Let me put it that way, reading and writing. To some extent, at higher educational levels, they encourage that, and that's part of the prerequisite before you even get into your specifics. One of the courses that I've also seen, I've realized and noticed, and I stand to be corrected, is psychology. Almost everyone takes a psychology class,
right,
as a prerequisite, regardless of. So my question is, most recently, in Liberia and across the world, I've been observing and doing some research on it as well. There seems to be an exacerbation of or increase of mental illness, substance abuse, whether suicidal thoughts or the actual act across the world. What would you say the contribution of COVID is to that? As to socialization, isolation, and not being a normal routine, what would you say?
Well, disease state in general always brings psychological problems to bear on people, whether the society is open or is closed. So once somebody is sick, they have malaria or anything, immediately they start to think what's going to happen to them. Oh, will it kill me? That psychological problem is brought to bear. So disease state alone creates some sort of psychological imbalance. The COVID-19 pandemic has contributed to the psychosocial problems that we see across the world. That the pandemic itself has restricted people from their normal social interactions. They had restricted people from their normal professional duties, and people have been pretty much kept indoors. Our young children, for example, like those of us in the U.S., you see every time the kids schools have to close, they have to go back to visual learning. Even it was trying to happen in Liberia, but Liberia is not equipped with that kind of situation. They proposed it, but they didn't have the facility to do that. So to be very brief in the answer, yes, the COVID-19 has contributed, and all of that has come from the fact that we had these lockdowns, and let me say, these were all necessary measures during the pandemic to really control it. If we didn't do that, we will be talking a different story today. So the isolation, the lockdown, periodic lockdown, social distancing, wearing of masks. I mean, wearing of masks alone, somebody who is not a doctor like myself has a problem with that, because we wear these things for hours and hours doing surgery, these surgical masks. So yes, the COVID-19 pandemic did contribute to that. And we are hoping that everybody will now understand that these vaccines are safe, they are effective, and they are free. If we can vaccinate almost all of the world, although there's this vaccine inequity, Africa does not have much vaccine and the West have more vaccines, but we can beat this pandemic. And then all of these social cycle problems that have been created, or psychosocial problems, will be in a way addressed and alleviated.
Great. I have a last set of questions, 2 in 1, as I will always do. I want to go back to politics. Would you run for president? That's the first part of the question for the presidency. Would you run for the presidency, Dr. Nyan? Another part of this question also is, unless you want to answer that quickly, and then I'll get to the other part, but it's up to you. I can ask both of them.
You can ask both of them.
Okay, great. So the second part of this question is, why do you feel the need for the CDC-led government to be removed, considering from what we've noticed, it seems more as though it's just part of this normal system, such as I'll quote Councillor Tiawan Gonglo, who states that the Unity Party-led government institutionalized bribery or brown envelope in the legislative branch of government. The Unity Party-led government also was a seriously corrupt government. As it is reported, it's not a secret. Why would you want to remove the CDC-led government? And who might you put there, considering you have, just like Human Bwaikai, who worked for the Unity Party-led government for 12 years, who was silent on everything. You have Belena Ure, who is a questionable character, involved with war crimes, at some point was accused and on a banned list. You have Senator Yomli Kangalores, who's been in the Senate for so many years, almost going on to 10 or so forth. We've seen no changes, we've seen nothing. Everything seemed to be stalled. You have Elizana Cummins, who's come on, who's the newest, you would say maybe, quote unquote, they would say in America, guy on the block. I might not understand the system, like saying that he wants to change the system and so forth. Why not just work with the CDC-led government and say, hey, gentlemen, let's come together, let's do this thing, or whatever it is? What do you say, or what would you say?
Well, so your first question as to whether I want to run for, or I will run for president, what I can say is that as a Liberian, my constitutional rights are guaranteed to run for any office that I am qualified for to run. That will be determined by the process in the NDC as to whether it wants to now elect a ticket to run, to put forth in the elections, just as have been said during the consultative meeting that was held, that we have the right to put forth a ticket, and we also have the right to join with other political parties, given the political dynamics in the country, in order to form a united ticket. So I wouldn't want to jump ahead of my party to announce myself or to say anything that will contradict what we have put together. That decision will come from my party. The party will understand, giving all of our qualified people in the room, can we send XYZ to become the presidential candidate? And we'll go through a primary system. That person will not just be coronated, or that person will not be coming from the background of being a previous standard bearer, but we have to go through a primary system in order to elect such a person. So when that time reaches, the party, the National Democratic Coalition, will decide that. And again, I will state that I have the right to run for representative, to run for senator, to run, as a senator, and to run for president, or be on a vice presidential candidate. Any one of those, I have the qualification for that, but it's the party and the Liberian people that will determine that. The second part of your question, why do we want to remove the CDC? You see, one thing is that time and again, society has evolved. I think many people are always afraid of change, yet many people want change. This current CDC saw itself as the change agent. It was coming for change. That particular philosophy, which was never clarified, hope for change, change for hope, we never knew where which one sat. But we have seen wanton corruption, we have seen incompetence, we have seen degradation of our governance system, we have seen the breakdown of our judicial system or attack on the judicial system, we have seen insecurity, we have seen wanton rape of our women that the country and the government has only been paying lip service to. We have been seeing child abuse. We have been seeing many things that this government is not doing. We have seen other things that this government has done, which are not representing us truly in the international community, meaning it does not even have a concise or tailored international diplomatic approach to anything. And all of these put together suggest that this is not what the Liberian people voted for. And you can see the discontent in the society. It's evident there's a discontent in the society. We are also seeing teachers not being paid. We are seeing doctors not being paid. We are seeing judicial workers not being paid, while the senators and representatives takes home $15,000 to $30,000 a month. We are seeing money being appropriated in the budget, like $30,000 for legislative engagement, quote unquote. For what legislative engagement? No one knows. When the healthcare budget is not upped, when the budget for education is not increased considerably to address these things, when the social condition of the people is not, the social condition of the people have not been addressed. When you look on the other hand, you see a coalition that came together that failed. So that calls for reassessment of ourselves. And that's why the script of my interview, which was reported that Tavina read, that's what I said that when the journalist asked me that these people they're making flour. Let's put it the pure Liberian way. They're making flour, they're making wahala the whole day. Let them go apart and look at themselves and say, okay, I was making wahala with this person. What was the problem of that wahala? Can we now come back together and come together on one thing, to agree on one thing? So that's what I meant, reassess yourself. And in that process of reassessing themselves, a newer coalition will be formed that will be based on, and we set the pace on national interest, that which was not existing. So that is why I think the present government will not and does not deserve being re-elected. We deserve an alternative approach. That approach and that political approach that will bring back sanity to our country and bring back a good governance system that will address the needs of our people.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nyan. We like I said, we are winding down, but I wanted to ask you this last question before we ask Taylor if she has a question, if she has one question or not to ask, and then we'll take your pattern comments. And here's this question. Most recently, I hate to bring this in, but I have to bring it in. We've seen parts of a book that was published in or brought up in public to the social media, and it's created a huge public outcry, some for political reasons, some for genuine reason, to to install morality, in our community or so forth, especially when it comes to women's issue. What is your take and what is your view on it?
Authors have the right to write anything they want to write, but they also have the equal responsibility of being responsible for what they write. I want to lay it on that basis. Same as journalists, they can report, they can say anything, but they must be responsible for what they say, if that comes under question. We have a society, which is the African society. We are from that cultural background. We respect our women to the extent that even in the villages where the women gather, if a man goes there, like in their bathing area and stuff like that, that man is fined. And I know that is across the African religion. Mm-hmm. We respect our women, and we don't ever denigrate our women. I mean, people are punished in the villages for even insulting a woman.
Yes.
I know that for sure. In most of the places that I have lived, I live in Nimba, I live in Bong. I'm from the southeast. Among the Kru, Grebels, the Gios. I mean, all our tribe. I mean, all our ethnic groups. People are punished for saying bad thing to a woman. So the part of that book was not welcome. It was not, the manner in which that particular passage was written was very denigrating. Not only to the First Lady, but to Liberian women in general. And of course, to Liberian women in particular, and to women who in general. Mm-hmm. So, it doesn't matter if it is, excuse me for saying a white woman, black woman, or anything, right. To woman in general. Right. That is why people who are involved with X-rated things, they do that if they want to do that. But if you are writing something professional, particularly biography or autobiography, there's certain responsibility that comes with that.
Exactly.
So it was not a good thing, and I think the author apologized. But what I read was not an apology to women and to the First Lady. It was kind of general. If you did read that I apologize to whomever I may have caused any harm. It's the First Lady who was particularly attacked, then Liberian women, and then women in general. Mm-hmm. So address the First Lady and address Liberian women. I will stop here by saying that women in general are the most beautiful creatures that nature and God ever created on this earth. And we adore you. We adore our women. We adore women in general. For which, during my 2016 oration, national oration, when I served as orator, I said, women, I'm with you all the way. And that's one of the things of the National Democratic Coalition. We fight for women's rights. We advocate for women's rights. That's one of our things, because we don't want to see women suppressed, in our society. So that's my take on the book. And I would think the authors, because there are two. We shouldn't hold one person.
Right. Two of them.
There are two persons. So it is unfair that the society is holding one person responsible.
Exactly.
Both of them should come out to directly apologize to the First Lady, apologize to Liberian women, and apologize to the women of the world for what was said in there. It could have been rephrased in a way that would stimulate the mind. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they are educated people. They can do that.
Right.
They can do that easily. Yep. So that's my take on that. And I think we should respect our women, and we should respect each and every. We should respect each other, because that mutual respect translates into who you respect, or if that mutual respect is not there, who you then disrespect. But I think we should call for mutual respect in this aspect.
Okay, thank you. Chel, do you have a question for Dr. Yan before he gave his closing comments or parting comments? Unfortunately,
Yeah.
we have to pause today.
Yeah, I have a question. Steve, I'm glad you brought up that book because I was going to go there. So I'm glad you brought it up. But I'm glad. And Tato Young, I couldn't thank you enough for what you said. It looked like smart as you are, you just entered my whole brain and my whole fight the last 2 hours about that book. Thank you so much for doing that. I don't know if you saw on the page or the front page Africa Today that the JFK had discharged patients for inability to pay the bills. And that was troubling to me. And I'm sure you, as a medical person, what are your thoughts about it? I don't know that sometimes of a validation, but just seeing that on the cover page, it's disturbing. What are your thoughts?
These are the critical review that we have of how things are being run in the country. We know the past 12 years of the UP administration, many things went wrong. But the CDC came in to say we are going to change these things because they criticized those things and they said they were going to change them. So we hold them to change these things. We are not saying that they will do 100%. Nobody expects you to do 100%. But at least do the little that will show that what you meant there has changed to some. You have moved the needle. You have moved from 10 and you brought it to 30. We are not saying you should carry all the way to 100. But we are not seeing that. It is very disheartening that the John F. Kennedy Memorial Hospital, that was one of the major training hospitals in Africa. We train a lot of doctors. Many people don't know these things. We train a lot of Nigerian doctors. You remember I was telling you about the South African struggle for liberation. We train a lot of their people. JFK was the major referral hospital in West Africa, in Africa south of the Sahara. Those days. But look at JFK today. It is very disheartening to see patients being booted out of the hospital simply because they can't pay a bill. Now, mind you, this is supposed to be a government hospital, right? And this is where this whole thing of social democracy comes in, where healthcare should be made available to the people. We have enough resources to make healthcare available to our people. The same thing that the Democratic Party, the progressives in the Democratic Party are pushing for in the United States today, for universal health care, the Obamacare, and the conservatives are fighting against that. So these are the things that bring tears to our eyes, that we have a good hospital that is not being funded, that is not being manned by highly skilled people. You have few skilled people in there, technocrats. Like we now have a very good urologist, Dr. Cassell, who just went in, Ayon Cassell. We have a neurosurgeon there, Dr. Abin Nando. We have one of our other colleagues, Dr. Sorry, I just forgotten the name, but a lot of good few ones who have just come in. He's an orthopedist, Bosi, Dr. Bosi, yeah, who just went in. So if we can send our people out for more training, we can come back to those days. So it's very disheartening, Altavina, my dear colleague, for what we see there. It's a shame. Because these things are reported and the whole world read these things.
Right.
You can imagine how I'm confronted with these things when I travel out. One, about the politics in the country first and foremost, and then about the biomedical situation and the way we have been carrying out the pandemic response. The pandemic response has been infested with corruption. The testing capability is lacking, and there's a whole lot of corruption in the whole testing mechanism, where people are just giving some results, and there are credible reports on these things. Journalists have reported this. Hassan Kiawu, who just returned from the country, did a whole blog on that. He reported that on Facebook. If you look at his Facebook page, you will see. So it validates all the things I was talking about yesterday, about the corruption in the pandemic response, about this, about how things should be done. But they went against me for that, only to come and validate what I was saying. So that's where we are with that. And I hope the government can increase this budget in healthcare, in science, in technology, so that we are able to re-energize or re-infuse technocrats into our system that will mend our healthcare, so that our people don't have to travel out to go Ghana, India, and other places for medical care, which they cannot afford. But when one official is sick, a jet is chartered, and they are flown out immediately. That is injustice to our people, and that has to stop. And that is why we are saying the CDC government is not living up to what it promised us. We are not criticizing it for what it didn't say to us. We are only asking it to do what it told us we were going to do. Exactly. If it's not doing it, it's our right to ask. We are the voters. We voted you in. We are your employers. They fail to realize that the Liberian people are the employer, and we have the right to ask them. So don't put us in jail. Don't stop us from coming in the country. Don't ban us when we say these things, but listen to it and change. That's all we want.
Indeed. Well, listen to it and change. Those are the words of Dr. Nyan. Dr. Nyan, it's been an honor having you for over 2 hours. Lots of learning. I'll have to pull out a secret here. You remind me of one of my teachers from 4th grade, 5th grade, but he's here now in Arizona, Ed Cooper. He also served as pastor.
Okay.
Same way of acting, very quiet, cool, but when he's ready to fire, you fire,
Thanks for the compliment.
So yes, but thank you so much. It's an honor having you, and we look forward to having you back here so that we can talk more on politics, because today we probably were not able to have you interact with the public, and also we probably did not go deep into politics because we definitely want to do that. Today was a teaser, but me personally enjoyed the teaser. I don't know about Tel, but you can give us your parting comments, and we'll definitely be reaching back out to you.
Well, thank you very much again for the invitation. And when I spoke with my team, both the medical and the political teams, they certainly agree that I come here. Thanks to Tevi for that back and forth arrangement over the last almost 2 weeks, 2 weeks and a half has been going on. And we finally, nailed it down for this time. And so I want to thank you, for my pioneering debut on your platform. I'm pretty sure they're listening and they will be open to accepting another invitation so that we can go deeper into strictly maybe the political side that we really didn't delve into, and so that your audience can have the chance to also ask some questions. Parting, I will like to admonish the entire political landscape of Liberia to beware of freelance politicians. I say this because you have political people who jump from one political party to another, And why? Because they have no commitment to stand on and no philosophical ground upon which they can organize with a particular group. That is one of the things that is bringing the confusion in the Liberian politics. The second thing is, I will want to admonish you from the medical side to please adhere to those 4 commandments of the COVID-19 prevention. Please wear your masks, sanitize your hands, keep your distance, and take your vaccines and the boosters. Take your children that are eligible to take the vaccines. Now it's from 5 years old upwards, so that they can take the vaccine. 3 weeks or 4 weeks from now, maybe a month from now, from 6 months old upwards will be eligible. Those papers have been filed by Pfizer so that their vaccine can be approved for that pediatric population. So through that, we will all beat this virus. Let us continue to organize with each other in a mutually respectable atmosphere and leave away this antagonism. we all don't have the same ideas. That is why we are different. I think from that diversity, we can learn a lot. So I thank you very much again, and I will part with these last comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Anthony. Really
Dr.
appreciate it.
Before
we'll
you
settle
leave,
the issue up.
le-
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
no, I just want to tell that I saw your list of appointees. I'm looking forward to see a woman on the next list.
Oh, yes. There are just a few of those that were put on there. And I know somebody asked that question the other
Oh, you
time.
know I'm working for
I
us.
know. I know. As a matter of fact, we have the Women's Brigade. Like I said, we have the Women's Brigade. And that is, of course, headed by a very strong female militant in the advocacy sense. And we didn't list all of the positions in there. And when I saw it too, I'm like, wait a minute. One of the ladies should have been listed here, and the pictures should have been up here. But again, we don't choose the pictures. The journalists choose what they want to do. They do their own graphics and everything. So we don't control, for our respect for press freedom, we don't control what they write and how they put it. Instead that they only ask us, is this quote, like we were saying today, is this quote okay? Did you quote this in the right way? Then we say, yes, we can verify that. So that when they publish, we'll not come back to retract anything. And we stand by everything that has been published. But yes, our women will be on. And
Thank you.
as I told you, we respect our women. They are beautiful, they are sensual, they are educated, they are caring. Liberian women and women in general are just sweet. Thank you very much.
So that means you agreeing with me. Like, we are the most beautiful
that's Steve Bertrand there.
I'm glad you agree with me on that one. We agree on that one.
Yeah, it's because of what this book says, so I have to end it specifically with Liberian women. Because we are asking we are asking the writers to apologize to the First Lady and apologize to Liberian women in particular and women in general.
And remove the page, the section in the book.
Of course,
that's my demand.
You can retract the book. You can retract the book, stop the sales, and you can
that section.
You can re-edit that page.
Right.
You can re-edit it. If you don't remove it, you can re-edit it.
Right.
Because the thing is that, I'm sorry, we are
not starting the show again. Folks gotta talk.
No, go ahead, Dr. Nyan. I think it's an important point to make.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The thing is that this quotation was from a third party. Look, all of us do research. Okay? We know how we quote. It's irrespective of whether you are writing something journalistic or you are writing a scientific paper or you're writing anything. We quote. So if you are quoting, that quote must be verified. This is not a journalistic writing where you hide who told you, your anonymous source. We can understand from journalists. But here you are quoting a third party from something that was said.
Right.
So, in the intellectual terms, that is an unverifiable assertion.
Exactly.
It's unverifiable. But then to have put a blunt like that, then you need to have provided the source.
Right. And even polish it. You could still, like you said, fix it in a way that people can learn from it.
You can stimulate the mind. We all have read novels, fictional novels, and we know how, our minds are stimulated when you read certain things,
Right.
So I wish they had given you the chance of even reviewing that book, Tevi, so that you could have helped
I'm
them.
very critical, of course.
So yeah, there are lots that can be done with that book. The second thing is, I don't know if they did give the book to the person who it was pertaining to, President George Weah, to read it. Because usually if you write a book about somebody, you even go to ask them questions themselves. You interview that person to say, look, this is what we heard from this interview from these people. Can you verify it?
So
because in the book, you are able to say, this is what was said, and we asked the president, or we asked XYZ, and they put it another way. There's a lot of ways you can rephrase it. So that's one point that people want to know.
Right.
The third thing is whoever reviewed this book, because if you write a book, you give it to other people to review it.
Exactly.
So those people, these reviewers who reviewed this book, before it was published. And I will say this: I had did they come across that? If they saw it, so did they agree with that also? That was unprofessional.
I don't
From
think they gave it to reviewers or professional reviewers, because even the second author, I understand he has published more than 7 books.
That's
So
correct.
that means he's probably overconfident that I don't need a reviewer. I have done this so many times, and they saw that they went and self-published.
Well, which
I
is
don't
which
think
is
they did.
which is very subjective.
Right.
It is also self-deceptive.
Mm-hmm.
Because you in the medical world, I'm in the medical world. I have published a lot. Any other thing we write, we give it to other people to read it.
It's always a good thing.
Right. To review it. And then when we send it to the publication journal, then they have reviewers there who we don't even know, but who then send us questions to answer.
Right. Somebody would have caught that. At least somebody who has some moral grounds or some moral standard would have caught it and say, hey, you can't say this like this. It's offensive.
So it's just an unfortunate situation. And I hope all of us can learn from this. And next time other people are writing their books, they will be very careful as to what they do. I'm going to ask the authors to really extend a direct apology to the First Lady, apologize to Liberian women and to women in general. So we can end on this note.
Yes, I think so. I know you have to appreciate your time.
Appreciate you for all you do, and congratulations to you on your nomination or your new role.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Well, Chow, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for sticking with us. We are
Please
here.
Jonah. I don't have the phone. Steve got the phone and everything. Steve said no call today. What? See, on the cover situation, when I call, he keep putting my name on the chat.
Yeah, I know the man's obsessed with you.
I don't have the phone, Papa. I don't have it.
Well, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for the announcement. We will be on Saturday, unless something happens.
Benjamin.
Like yesterday, we came on for an emergency show because of what is going on with the whole book thing and how people want to politicize it, and we should stick with what's at hand. I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to change society, change how we approach and deal with women issues, or children and other gender issues. I think this is a perfect opportunity. We can make use of it. I don't think it should be politicized. I don't think
it shouldn't be.
I don't think this is a perfect opportunity for all of us.
It's a learning experience all around.
If we utilize it the right way, it will benefit us, and we'll make history. We'll set a benchmark that will benefit all of us in one way, shape, or form. So we're begging all of you, let's stand up for what is right. Let's stand up for what is moral, decent. Yes, we might have our personal challenges, but we cannot afford to allow our personal challenges to influence, the next generation, society, or to just change it so that we can bring it in, and make it all about us. I don't know what's your last take. Saturday will be on. Sunday will be on by the grace of God as well. Please check the page, SKTV. If there's any announcement, you'll find it on there. Please and please and please. And we look forward to having you on. Just before we leave, I want to make a quick announcement. I know sometimes last year I did announce to the public here that I would start a show. Today, I announced it on my page that I will start a show specifically dealing with psychological issue, mental health issue. There'll be a lot of different topics connected on it. I just want the public to know that we're zooming in on the time. I'm looking at my schedule, looking at other activities that are going on in the community in other places as to not interfere with other people's time. But I think there is a need for it. A lot of people have reached out to me to remind me about it, to also encourage me that we should start the show. And, we'll start it. Just so you know, I'm doing everything I can to align and adjust my schedule. We'll start it. It will be airing on Fridays.
So you streaming on your own page, or you streaming through SKTV? Just curious.
Yes.
I'm sure the viewers will want to know.
I think it's a good question. We'll start off by
you don't have
streaming.
to answer now if you're thinking about it.
No. We're streamed through SKTV because with my own page, it would be a little challenging and a little difficult, especially with my slowness with technology.
Well, you have a platform, so it's just an added benefit to stream to the platform. Why reinvent the wheel? You can just add it as a segment.
Right. So,
but each is that's it. Free for us.
This would like Tal said. This would be an extra segment on the XKTV. It will be air Friday, not today, not this Friday, tomorrow, not next Friday, but the following Friday, because tomorrow will be the 4th. Now, so the debut will be the 18th. The 18th of February, right after Valentine's Day, where all of you now receive all of your love gifts and your hearts and kisses. Then we'll have
you probably need to do a show before then to tell about trauma Barney and be looking for love in all the wrong places to me. Let me shut up here.
Go.
If you're looking for love, you're the wrong places doing Valentine's.
You get Benjamin, Jonah, and you don't be around all day. Get ready and say you started the show today. Get ready.
You don't complain our show all over our show.
Well, we're definitely.
No, but I think it's very necessary. Be long coming.
Yes,
I think
we're definitely.
Why not? You're the subject matter expert in that. So why not you tell us your skills?
And I'm sure Tel will be there with me at some point.
No, I'll be in the back to get technical support.
No. You have the show.
That's my era.
No, you have the show to talk about some of these things. So again, we'll have a lot of different people there, but most likely Tel will be there. For sure, she'll be there. Her passion for gender issues and so forth, because these things tie into all of these things. But to be honest, we are going to start
all the experts.
Yes, definitely.
Look at Jonah, Jonah.
We'll get other experts, and like I said, we'll observe the timing.
Anyway, playing it the best way you know how. Don't let me.
We'll observe the timing of other people. Yeah. We are definitely looking at starting at 6 p.m. Eastern time, which will be 4 p.m. Arizona time. 4 p.m. Arizona time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, Fridays. So I'm working on the schedule. I'm putting everything together along with 1 or 2 people. We'll get started. The kickoff, please mark your calendar. The kickoff will be February the 18th. February the 18th, we will start the show. We'll definitely term it as mental health and wellness. As part of the courses I'm teaching right now at the university, that's the title. And a lot of things will be discussed underneath it. We'll consider a lot of factors. We'll talk about a lot of things. To be honest, we'll talk about a lot of things. A lot of free education. Some resources will be provided as well to the general public. We'll try definitely to get the hotline for suicidal. We'll try definitely the national hotline that when you call, they can refer you to your local state or so forth, through all the different processes. We'll bring all of these things out. We'll talk about a lot of different things. We'll talk about different tools that you can use, and sometimes we might even have people come on who are willing to share part of their story. If it will be a willing thing, it won't be held liable, but definitely I think there's a need and we'll definitely work on it. So Friday the 18th, please mark your calendar. Debbie will be on SKTV Friday the 18th. Mental health and wellness. We discuss a lot of different things. And we'll start off with, hopefully, we'll do an hour based on how it works, how it goes, popular demand and so forth. Then we will push it up to 2 hours based on our schedule and so forth. But we'll start very small and eventually move on. But again, please, let's set our calendar. We have Abdullah Kiatamba and other people then coming.
I can't wait because I've been talking to TF for almost 2 years. I can't wait.
No, the feeling that we're finally. I know you
I
did.
can't wait.
I know they're bouncing Grandma behind close. Don't worry, no happy.
I can't wait.
We'll talk about it.
I
And the other
can't
time, tell and I just before that show, I'm definitely going to reach out to Tell. Tell did something. She started something unfortunately that I couldn't partake because that day my schedule conflicted. I think I was traveling or so forth to talk about grief or loss. She started to talk about
point.
No.
Talking point.
It will be a teaser. It will be a teaser for the Friday before the show. It will be a teaser.
No.
So next Friday, it will be a teaser. We'll be here. Please follow the announcement. Tell and I will talk about grief.
It's really time that even when they're book thing, you know, so people are they're hurt from it. So they're dealing with that.
Yes. So next Friday, which will be the 11th, at 6 p.m. Eastern time, I will coordinate with Tell Hear Me, who will coordinate in the back, as to ensure that we have that, you know.
No, I like your bet you were talking about include matchmaking.
Your
friends are bad. Your friends are bad.
We're not including no matchmaking. Look,
there are too many apps out there. Go there. Go on. Too many apps. We're not into that business.
Please, I beg you.
It's too funny.
No one's going to put in a situation we can't handle.
That's not our specialty.
Exactly. We don't do matches or whatever it is. Yeah, so
it's too funny.
So definitely, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And thank you. Please mark your calendar. It's going to be termed as mental health and wellness. The show will be mental health and wellness. Tomorrow, I'll put the announcement on my page, Moses page. I'll put it on there and we'll go through SKTV. Again, please bear this in mind, mental health and wellness. I know I get a lot of trouble, but we'll do this. It's okay for all to talk politics, but we must talk about sanity. We must talk about sanity.
Time anyway.
Please mark your calendars. Next Friday, we'll put an announcement on next Friday.
Man, I can't wait.
6 p.m. Eastern time. Or I'll speak with Tel. I'll speak with Tel for her to please look at her schedule. If 6 p.m. Eastern time will work for her based on her time zone. But mark your calendar for around 6 p.m. Eastern time, which will be 4 p.m. Arizona time. I'm not sure what time it will be to Tell, but we are making this announcement and we'll make it throughout the week.
I should be available
that day. So thank you again. Appreciate all of you for all of your support.
If I got a song here.
Yes.
I got a song.
So that we can close with that song, please.
You got 20 where ask me. Oh, let me see. We talking on. Let me find this song here.
Yes. So please, next Friday we'll talk about grief. We'll talk about the trauma of this book. I know some of you will overlook it or whatever it is, but
I have not seen this one here. I didn't get to preview it. But Timothy seemed like a cool guy, so I don't think we'll listen to Crossing song.
We'll definitely bring it up. And we'll offer these free services. We'll try our best. It will be apolitical. It will be educational. Don't get us wrong. If there is a need to discuss how politics plays into this thing now moving forward, we will. But there's a need for it. It's high on our demand. And sorry that we didn't take calls today. Please, you don't get very us. Dr. Nyan will be back. He will be back by the grace of God. We have the opportunity for you guys to interact with him. Please, and we're very sorry that we didn't take calls today. So quickly, we'll go to the show here. We'll go to the music. This will close us for the day.
I didn't listen to the song though. He said a Grebo song. I come in. Let me. He said a Grebo song. So I do like a power. Tata was a play my song too. Senator, I will play that star. That I mean, said it. They sang a song. What I mean, the one I made out of Grebo song. Is that him?
Bad. I remember the song was much younger.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So when we used to dance this song, we used to hold each other arm and then dance this song. Yeah,
Well, what important dancing? I mean, there's song for my mom. Like girl people will do the dosi do. Show me how if I dance it for her. Man, they decide to be chopping paper today. See, we ready? Let's draw the curtains off. We're gonna look how it is, bread.
I'm dancing in my head.
I know. It's a good song.
It's not bad song, it's very good.
You see, Timothy? He says, "I'll be like, oh, you can't marry this, yeah." No, your viewers are funny.
Slow down, don't bring noise in. Don't bring noise in. Slow down. You are gonna move that, slow down.
Oh, you're funny. What time is the best? I enjoy your comments though.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're bringing those of you who want to see Chuck dancing, the inauguration weekend in Arizona.
You can see Dosito. Steve, people already come in my inbox and tell me they can't wait for the mental health show. So you know I will not play with you. We will have that show.
Look, Chuck, we having I can't have you by 5 or 4. So I know you're being fully engaged because you're not political thing.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, but today we'll party and that's it. They let not brought new flavor to the show because Thank you, and thank you. Let's have a good week. It's unfortunate that Mr. Kanye is not here to show his dance move, but I know Saturday he will show his dance move. Thank you for the song. We appreciate it.
Credit to Timothy though that his song. He sent that.
Yes, thank you so much, Timothy, for the song. We appreciate all of you. We'll talk later, please. We gotta run.
Yes, we gotta go. I gotta get back to work.
Thank you so much.
Okay then.